USCHO.com.
Welcome to USCHO Spotlight for Wednesday, November 30th, 2022. Each week we talk with coach, player, administrator, or journalist about college hockey. This podcast is sponsored by DCU Digital Federal Credit Union. What will DCU mean to you? Find out today by visiting dcu.org. Membership required. I'm Ed Trefzger alongside Jim Connelly. One of the teams that's had some early success this season in the NCHC is Western Michigan.
And we're joined now by the head coach of Western Michigan University. That's Pat Ferschweiler. And Pat, an interesting Thanksgiving weekend trip. You headed to Nashville for a destination game, and unfortunately the game got moved because of a water main break outside Bridgestone Arena. Take me through what Friday was like as a coach, not just the whole logistics of it, but then also getting your team ready to play a good Northeastern club.
Well, first of all, I want to say how proud I am of our team and the way we came out and played after all kind of went down. But it was an interesting weekend. We practiced Thursday in Bridgestone Arena. Then Friday morning skate was at the Predators practice facility. And then we're supposed to come back and play at Bridgestone Arena again. We ended up moving the game to a kind of basically a local rink that we'd never been in or skated in for the game that night. So took some flexibility, some open-mindedness from us and from Northeastern, some willingness to kind of play, in a lesser-known situation. But it was a real competitive game. I thought both sides played a strong hockey game.
Yeah, looking at the box score, I didn't get to see any video, but looking at the box score, it was a back-and-forth game. What did you like about the way that your team was able to compete against a team like Northeastern?
Well, I like that we were ready from the start of the game. And again, with all the distractions and all the other things that went on that day, the unknowns, we came out and I thought we played a real strong brand of hockey. We were actually up 3-1 late in the second period. They got two power plays. They capitalized just after one power play and then scored on the other. And they did it well. They executed at a high level. So now we're 3-3 going into the third period, and then they get up 4-3. But I thought we had some pushback. We played real strong hockey most of the game. Anytime you can beat Devin Levi 5 times, like, you've had a good hockey game.
That is, in fact, very true. Devin Levi, obviously an Olympian last year. Let's just look at your team this year. Sitting in second place in the NCHC, there's a ton of league hockey left to be played. But I look at some of the players, and Jason Poland with 13 goals at this point in the season. You don't see a lot of guys that are almost a goal a game guy, but he's a veteran player. What do you like about his game and just what he creates in terms of offense?
Well, Jason, and I said this for 4 straight years here, he's probably our most professional player. He reminds me of guys in the National Hockey League, the way he prepares, the way he does it right every day. He's also maybe the best defensive forward in the NCHC or maybe college hockey. He is always above his man. He's always doing it the correct way. But just like in junior hockey, last year in the USCHO, he took the extra year. He scored 30 goals. He came in here. Last year he had 16 goals. So there is offense in that stick. Aside from all the other great things he does winning hockey-wise, he really can shoot it, and he's smart enough and skilled enough to really understand how offense works and how to repeat it.
Obviously, Jason has been strong, but I look at a bunch of guys with 7 goals. You have a guy with 8. You got some guys with 6. Up and down your lineup right now, I think I see 18 different goal scorers. That shows me that there's some scoring depth on this team as well.
There's no doubt. And we lost a ton of guys. We lost 6 NHL contracts last year, and that was most of our scoring. And there was some doubt as coming into the year, who's going to score for us. But at the end of the day, that's a bit of the style we play. We play an attacking style. I think kids want to be encouraged to play offense nowadays. I think we call it defending with the puck. So the more we have it, the better off it is for our squad. And we're just, when we don't have it, we're trying to attack and create pressure. And when we do have it, we want to go to the net and make sure that we're making plays as well.
Pat, what area or areas would you like to see the Broncos most improve in right now?
Well, I think we got to keep the puck out of our own net a little bit better. And it's interesting because I don't think we're playing poor defensively. 2 areas we have to clean up, and that's puck management, because the goals that are going against us are generally from turnovers, as most goals are. But there are things we can correct. And then our penalty kill has to be better than it has been right now. That's a combination of things. But I think we can clean some of that up, be a little bit better defensively without sacrificing the attacking style on offense.
Around college hockey this year with the rules, they've looked at some real emphasis on protocol. There are 5-minute majors allowed without having to put a misconduct with it. And there's also a little more flexibility in coaches' challenge with video. Have you had any experience or any observations in these areas? Anything that you'd want to comment on how that's changed for this year?
One, I love the fact that you can have a 5 without the game, because certainly there's those times either the guy turns late or, whatever the circumstance is. I think we've all watched a game and thought, well, that guy shouldn't be out for the game for that. Now, whether it was a 5 or not, that can be judged or whatever. But I think that's a great addition to it. The protocols, I don't want to feel bad for the referees, but why would they add that on to a already tough job? And now no one wants to call that. And I didn't think it was a problem in the first place. So I was confused by the whole emphasis on that. I didn't see a problem. I don't think coaches in the NCHC saw a problem with the protocols being abused in any type of way. So I thought it was undue pressure on the referees, but it's in there now and we're going to adhere to it for sure. But I think the 5-0 game is a real nice addition to college hockey.
Do you think maybe officials have been hesitant to call a 5 in the past where it's warranted now that they can call that as a standalone penalty?
I think it's possibly. I'm not in their mind, but what I do know is with the helper replay, we can, and really the goal of all of it is to get it right? And I think this allows it to get it more right. And whether it's never going to be perfect from one side anyway. One side's going to think it's a great call, the other side's not. But it just allows everyone to have a chance to get it the most right. And so I like that a lot.
Now into your second season as head coach of the Broncos, what's been the best part of this job?
Honestly, the group of young men that we have, where this is 2 great seasons of just fantastic people in our locker room. They love being Broncos. They love coming to the rink. They love working really hard, and they love getting better every day. And then I get to work with some of my best friends. Jason Herter has been a friend of mine for 25 years. He's my associate head coach, and JJ Crew. I got to coach him, 10 years ago now with the Broncos, or 12 years ago, and I get to work with him. So we have a great staff. We have a great group of players, and really it's the people that make this job so great.
More with Western Michigan's Pat Ferschweiler in a moment. USCHO Spotlight is sponsored by DCU Digital Federal Credit Union. Visit dcu.org.
Know how people say life happens? Well, for me, life was happening, and I needed a new truck. I didn't have time to shop around for a good loan, so I got one from the dealer, higher interest and all. Month after month, those payments were squeezing me. So I went to DCU. They refinanced my loan and helped lower my rate, which lowered my payments. These days, I have more money in my pocket for whatever life throws at me. What will DCU mean to you? Insured by NCUA. Membership required. Visit dcu.org.
We're back with Western Michigan head coach Pat Ferschweiler. Looking at your conference, the NCHC, looking at it from outside, from my vantage point, it seems like it's a little bit tighter top to bottom in the league this year. How do you judge the competitiveness and maybe top to bottom in your league?
Boy, to say it's more competitive is an interesting thing. It feels so competitive every moment you're in this league. It really does. And no matter who you're playing, you either have a chance to win or lose. I mean, I just think that I think the depth is better. Miami's they're improved. CC's improved a ton for sure from last year. And so they're immediately more competitive. And I think the top is every bit as good as it has been. Even though the league suffered some out of conference losses, I think those are early in the season. And one thing that's different in the league this year is we've had established goaltending for so many years. And everybody got new goalies this year. Not everybody, but, Duluth loses Fanti, who's been in that for a while. Omaha lost their guy. We lost our guy. So all of a sudden now there's some new faces in the net. And do pucks go in a little early on occasion? And does that look a little differently? And then as the season goes on, I bet you're going to see those goals against go way down in our league as they normally do.
Pat, I want to ask one question. I've been asking some coaches in Hockey East League that I cover a lot. And I watch your team on tape, and you guys are pretty good at getting to the net, but it feels like getting to the net and getting pucks there and then putting bodies in position is harder than ever in this game. Do you agree with that? And is there kind of a big challenge to kind of winning that net front battle? And it does seem to be one of the most important parts of college hockey because so many goals are scored from 10 feet out.
Well, and it is all of hockey. And I think it's the most important part. And I think, if you look at that little square out in front of the net, I mean, there's, any given year in the NHL, I think 82 to 84% of the goals are scored right there. So there's no secret to where the goals are scored. How do I get there? And how do I get a puck through there with everyone blocking so well, with the defensive systems as good as they are, with the box out as hard as they are? It's a hard area to get to. It's a hard area to deliver pucks and bodies at the same time to. So how do you do that? There's different ways. You have one guy, you have a guy off the side. You don't commit everybody to the area right away. You have people coming in from the sides. You have your defenseman with a head up and some plan B hockey. It's either on the net or they're looking for a stick. It's a difficult area to get to, but when you do get there and you have the combination of bodies and pucks, good things happen and you get to score some goals.
I'm looking at your schedule, and you've had a number of road games to date. You've traveled to Alaska. We just talked about Nashville. You've been on the road to Michigan and Notre Dame and Bowling Green, and you're gonna head back out to Omaha this weekend. You get a couple of North Dakota, but I mean, there's not a lot of home games in your future until you get to really the end of the season. What's it like to be a road warrior? And that feels like what your team has been and has to be almost until the end of January.
Yeah, no, I think playing on the road early in the season, I don't want to say it's an advantage because we have such a great home ice here and our atmosphere is spectacular. One of the best in college hockey, I believe. But I really believe, especially we had a lot of new faces this year, I think it allows the team to get to know each other, allows the team to bond and really come together as a group when you're on the road together because it's just us, right? There's no distractions on the road. It's just our 23 guys together, figuring each other out, creating relationships, creating bonds, and becoming better players and a better team together. So in some ways, being on the road early, if you can, learn those lessons with some success is an advantage.
Let's talk about Omaha. They just come off a weekend split down in Denver. They'll be back home. You'll be out in Nebraska on Friday and Saturday this weekend. What are the challenges that you see when you look at this Omaha team?
Well, I think they're a highly, highly skilled offensive squad. Like they returned a ton of offense, and the late addition of Tyler Weissbach, or Weiss, however you say his name, he's a dynamic college hockey player. He just is, and he didn't sign up for college. I don't think till they were a week in this year. I don't know if they were, but what a great late addition. And you got Jack Randall up front. He works like a dog. So they're a competitive, talented group. And I think their question mark was going to be a net. And I think that's been somewhat answered. I think their guys played very, very well. Kucharski.
I listened to you talk. You sound like you're having a lot of fun out there in Western Michigan.
Oh, it's, I played here. I love this place. It's somewhat of my dream job. And like I said, we come to the rink with a smile on our face and ready to go every single day.
Well, Pat Ferschweiler, it's been a good start in the NCHC, a very competitive league, sitting in second place right now. A lot of hockey to play, but keep up the good work. We appreciate your time. Hopefully we get to chat again later this season.
Guys, thanks for including me. Appreciate it.
That's Western Michigan's Pat Ferschweiler. Jim, I love the enthusiasm of Pat. It certainly sounds like he's enjoying the job.
I threw that question in at the end just because he really does seem to have an exuberance for what he's doing. And I think he really enjoys being in a place that's familiar to him, coaching a team that he's been able to bring some immediate success to. It's easy to have fun when you're winning. That's obvious. But I really do look at everything that he's done in that program and know that he's putting some sort of a staple onto this Western Michigan team that really could go a long way in making it a powerhouse program. And you think about the NCAA team, we've talked about this a lot, that you have 8 great teams that had 8, good pedigrees of success, great pedigrees of success for many of them. and you had to have teams that were going to finish at the bottom. And you could have easily grouped Western into one of the teams that would always be at the bottom. And Andy Murray had done some good things with that program. But the reality is you need to find a way to move the dial. And I think that is what Pat Ferschweiler is starting to do. He's starting to take that program in the right direction. They'll be a real power.
I really liked your question about getting to the net. I heard an interview with a coach the other day where he talked about how the game and the players have never been better. And as the game evolves, how you react to the evolution of the game has to continue to evolve too.
Yeah, I've just noticed it a lot this year, that it's becoming almost a battle night in, night out. How do you get pucks through to the net? And then how do you get the bodies there? Because listen, you can watch a lot of hockey, NHL hockey, college hockey, high school hockey, juniors, whatever you want. And the reality is that the rebound is still probably the most effective way to score a goal. Power plays are wonderful, and you'll get some great one-timers, and you'll get some good screens. You'll get some shots off passes. You'll do a lot of those things that you want to do. But at the end of the day, you're still going to score more than 40% of your goals off of rebounds. So you need bodies to the net, but every coach says the same thing, that it's just getting more difficult to get there. You can't just skate there. And I've had a number of coaches, I know Pat didn't say this in particular, but a number of coaches said that the college game is even more difficult because you're playing a shorter season. You're playing 34 games as opposed to the 82 in the NHL. And people aren't afraid to just physically play in front of the net to try to keep you from getting there. In the NHL, you can't play that way 82 games. You'd be dead tired by the end of the season. Nobody's body can take those types of beatings. So even the defenders trying to keep you out from the front of the net cannot play with that intensity. So I think that's one of those things that really can make the college game even more difficult. And I think that's what I'm learning. I mean, all these coaches I've talked to about this thus far this season have said the same thing. It's just hard. The physical play in front of the net just beats you down.
We've been talking this season on our podcast about maybe the NCHC having taken a step back or two compared to other conferences. And Pat brought up something pretty interesting that I had not really thought about, is that there are a lot of new goalies around the league, and maybe that's a factor in that. That and also his comments about being road warriors were interesting. What a great schedule to have a lot of home games at Lawson towards the end of the season.
They do. And that's, you look at that, and I think they only have 2 road series after, maybe the 20th of January. That's not bad. You're going to play a lot of home games down the stretch. You can take advantage of that, especially in Lawson, a really good atmosphere. The goaltenders, I think that is an interesting point. You do have a lot of, young netminders trying to settle themselves in. And every night, I also look at the NCHC. I'm not saying this in a bad way, but there's more offense in the NCHC than the average given league. That's an opinion of mine, but I think it's also proven. You see goal scoring is a lot higher in that league at times. Despite the fact that you've got some really good defensemen, despite the fact that you have some good goaltenders, you can still see games that 7, 8, 9, 10 goals a game combined between the two teams. And that's because teams kind of play with a more offensive mentality. Yes, there's some good defense played in that league, but I think you have more teams in the NCHC that are more comfortable getting into track meets, similar to the style that you would see a team like Michigan or the BCs of the past or Boston University teams that can play fast, can play at a high pace. You're seeing more of that in the NCHC. So as a goaltender, a rookie goaltender, you're coming in and you're seeing maybe 15 shots in the first period of every game. That's a little bit of an onus to put on yourself as a goaltender. So I think that Pat Ferschweiler makes a good point there, that there is a lot of young goaltender that I think that maybe even in some of these non-conference games early in the season where they fell. And we've noted it many times, they're the 3rd best winning percentage out of conference. But I also think that there's some good teams in this league. I think that I think they used to be nights off a little bit more. I don't think that Miami and CC had their programs at the level they have them now for the last 2-3 years. And I think that Miami and CC used to be easier games. They're not going to be anymore. There's not going to be a night off. All 8 of these teams in the NCHC seem to be ready to play. I think that it is actually a more competitive league. Will that result in maybe less teams in the NCAA tournament? Maybe. because you're going to cannibalize yourself within the league a little bit.
I still think they'll get at least 3, maybe 4, but that is down a bit.
No doubt they'll get 3. 4 is possible. 5 is always still out there, but it just becomes a little bit more difficult when you struggle a little early in the season and then you just kind of beat each other up all regular season.
Well, we definitely enjoyed our conversation with Pat Ferschweiler. USCHO Spotlight is sponsored by DCU, Digital Federal Credit Union. Visit dcu.org. Find our podcast at uscho.com/podcasts or subscribe on your favorite podcast app. For Jim Connelly, I'm Ed Trefzger, and this has been USCHO Spotlight.